to the Beard Speaks podcast. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Beard Speaks podcast. I am your humble host. How are you? Guys, I want to thank you very much for your patience. I know it's been a couple of weeks. We were, should have had another episode out there, but, with the Thanksgiving holiday going on and, travel and, Christmas coming up, guys. Hey, happy Thanksgiving to all you guys out there. Merry Christmas to all you guys out there. I'm going to try to get a couple more episodes in this year before season 3 of the Beard Speaks podcast starts kicking. As you see, we have a new logo. I've been plastering all over. It's on the website. So go check out www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com and check it out there. Dude, we are on TikTok. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram, YouTube. Check out our YouTube. I'm putting out more content. I actually had a killer time out in Knoxville, Tennessee. Shout out to Knoxville. Did some cool video and some photos out there with the Big Barber, which I'm going to have on my show. Hopefully before the Christmas episode, I will have him on. And yeah, man, got my beard trimmed, got my hair cut, and go to TikTok in a couple of days or so. I'm going to have some review videos for some new beard oils I picked up from him. So go check that out. Again, www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com. Links to all the socials are there. So before we start this killer episode, and it's a long one, guys, I didn't even want to hang up with this guy. Jeremy Burns, good guy. Met him a couple years ago. Killer voice, singer songwriter, and he is just a very interesting dude, man. I love talking to him. I didn't even want to hang up. The interview went a little bit long, and we are going to do another one, hopefully starting next year on season 3. I'm going to have him back on, and we could talk a little bit more in depth about music, about father's rights, about being a dad, and and things, family. This guy's got a great, just a great story. So please, listen through all the way, and I'm going to try to cut this stuff short, but so we can get to it. I want to do shout out to Chicago, Illinois for listening in, Council Bluffs, Iowa. I also want to shout out to Lancaster, Ohio, Knoxville, Tennessee, Cedar Falls, Iowa. Who else we got here? Louisville, Kentucky. What's up, Kentucky? Schaumburg, Illinois. We got New York. What's up, New York? Memphis, Tennessee. St. Charles, Illinois. We got Valencia, California. What's up, Valencia? Knox, Indiana. Cary, Illinois. Who else we got? Park Ridge, Illinois. What's up, Park Ridge? Always checking in. Love you guys. Nashville, Tennessee. What's up, Nashville? Just spent a little time out there for Thanksgiving. Cincinnati, Ohio. What's up, Cincinnati? Seattle, Washington. Houston, Texas. Spring Grove, Illinois. Wausau, I could never freaking say that, man. Wisconsin. What's up, Wisconsin? Austin, Texas, man. The list goes on. I appreciate it. Now, guys, without further ado, here's my interview, and sit down and chat. And you guys are going to love it. All right, everybody. Today I have with me Jeremy Burns. What's up, Jeremy?
I'm doing all right, man. Just hanging out.
Awesome. I'm excited to have you on the show. I know we've been playing tag on Facebook for a while, and finally got a moment to carve out in the day and put together this interview. And I'm like I said, excited to have you here. And guys, we're going to be talking a lot about music, fatherhood, just the good old stuff right there. So awesome, man. Let's start off with your music, man. I've been watching some videos on Facebook and that where you're out there and you're just you're busting ass, you're singing, you've got a killer voice. Talk a little bit about where all that originated from.
So yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for saying so. It's kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it somewhat straightforward. But it all kind of ties into the whole subject matter of the show. But I've always sang, want to play guitar and things like that. And I'm actually a U.S. Air Force veteran, and I was up in Seattle at McCord Air Base, and Johnny Cash passed away 2003.
Yeah,
and he had released "Hurt" shortly after that. It had come out, and I'm sitting in the parking lot of I think it was like Kmart or something, and it comes across the radio that he passed away and everything, and I obviously I knew who Johnny Cash was, but I didn't have like all his albums or anything,
right.
But the song struck me, and then you find out the story. It was the Trent Reznor song, and Nashville didn't want to record Cash, and so he got out there and ended up getting hooked up, and it come across the song or whatever, and so I hear this song, and it kind of struck me, obviously, and but then many years go by, and I don't ever hear the song again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to say it's like 2008, maybe. I go through all the troubles I had with the divorce and everything happening, and when at the time, the way that panned out for me at the very beginning, as many people might relate to, it didn't go well for me.
Right.
So I ended up actually homeless for 8 months.
Wow.
And so I'm running around, and in this 8 months, that damn song was everywhere. It was, whether it be radio or somebody's burned CD, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
I just heard over and over and over and over. And I'd always wanted to play guitar. I'd always wanted to sing and do things, but I never sat down to do it. So I kind of felt like at the time, the universe or whatnot, what it was kind of hollering at me like, "Hey man, it's maybe time." And, so I kind of in the back of my mind, I made a promise to myself that if nothing else, I was going to learn the one song.
Okay.
And I never intended on going where I've been with it, but I was going to learn that one song, and and then I was going to be content. Right.
Right.
Well, I ended up in San Antonio, Texas, during this time, and I was working for soldiers, kind of veterans thing, and they had a music program in there, and just something to do like with disabled vets and stuff.
Sure.
It was just one of those things, to help guys out if they're recovering or stuck in the hospital, things like that. So, and I didn't know I still didn't know how to play, but the program basically consisted of me and another gentleman. We'd go to the hospital, and he played harmonica. And so he would teach these guys how to play harmonica, and I was supposed to be teaching them how to play guitar, but I was learning as I was teaching, So that song, I finally got to learn that song, and this is where that guy got hooked up with me, the harmonica player.
Right.
And he's like, "Hey man, can you play that whole song or whatever?" And I said, "Nah, I mean, I know the 3 chords that are going in it, and I'm funking it out." And he's like, "Well, you got a great voice." And, it just kind of grew from there. And it was probably, I probably had been playing for about 2 months. And he drags me to this VFW open mic. And nice. So, and then we end up, which I was like terrified, I'm like, man, I don't belong up here. Right. And so he takes me down to VFW in San Antonio, and then I ended up at Canyon Lake, which is north of San Antonio. at like a soldiers and sailors event type thing, right?
Right.
So he throws me up in the middle of this massive crowd. This band was playing, and they took their little break or whatever, and he throws me up there, and I sing the two songs, "Hurt" being one of them, and I was expecting like the worst case scenario, like let's let me get out of here.
Yeah, right.
And that's not what happened, man. Like people flipped, and they were like, dude, whatever you're doing, don't stop, and don't ever put that guitar down.
Well, man, I mean, I got to tell you, I didn't know that you weren't playing for that long because I didn't know really much of the backstory, but you do got a great voice. I mean, you don't stop. That's exactly what it is. And real quick, was that the organization Guitars for Vets?
No, it was actually the organization I was working for was Soldiers Angels.
Oh, Soldiers Angels. Okay, yeah. Because I know there's a couple of them out there that do this type of thing, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. We would we'd present the guy if they had the interest, and
sure.
They did that stuff. We would actually we got them a guitar, to learn on and things like that, where we'd present it to them. If they were kind of showed that they were into it, and it was something that they were going to try to follow, and make use of, not necessarily, go out and be a musician or whatever.
Sure.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just if they're going to use it, they like the program, if it really helped them, because, and that's basically where that started. So, a lot of guys I know, some folks, they want to be musicians. They think about their whole lives. But, like for me personally, and I know a lot of the guys that I met, during that time and throughout my whole time I've been playing, I do it to deal with my own stuff, what
sure.
I mean? And I feel like, if I'm in front of a crowd and they're there and they're really kind of zoning in on what's going on in front of them, there's that connection that you have with people.
100%. Yeah.
And to be able to give something back, I mean, that's cool, and I've got a couple pictures on my photo or on Facebook and things like that, and they're old, so you probably have to scroll for a long time, but
sure.
There's a couple Johnny Cash quotes, and I've always kind of attributed that to my beginning, kind of in a really weird way, that he talks about, he got more from the people out in the crowd than they did from him.
It's true. Being up on stage is not really, I mean, if you're doing it for, the reasons why you're doing it, that is true. You get more out of that crowd, just that feedback and watching. You're playing music to help people escape, the bullshit they're going through in their life too, man. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's why I do it, man. And like I said, them folks at the very beginning, they come up to me, and some are real excited and some are teary eyed, you know what I mean? But they're like, well, either way, they're like, man, don't stop what you're doing.
Nice.
And so I just keep doing it, man.
No, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, just keep plugging away, and we talked a little bit off Mike about the music business itself, and local scenes and things like that. So don't let that discourage you, because I know. I've been doing that for a long time myself, and it ebbs and flows. There's different things out there. There's people you'll cross in the music business that are just snakes. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Like any business, right? Got to keep your wits to yourself. But when you're good, you're good. And at the end of the day, I don't care. What some club owner thinks about you or what this guy thinks. It's all about the integrity of what you're doing, right? Your music, and the fans and the people that like to, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's it. When you go back and you look at bands like Van Halen and stuff like that, I just recently been doing some deep dive on some of their backstory. And it's crazy because back then, these guys were just playing backyard parties, keg parties. They didn't care about anybody else. It's all about the fans. The fans are the ones that got them where they are because they weren't playing clubs. They were playing all the backyard parties.
Yeah, man, and that's where I tell people, like I feel like there's this expectation because I've been playing, like I said, for maybe like 12 years now, right?
Right.
And the first few years, obviously, you're learning, you're doing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like presenting yourself in front of crowds and audiences and things like that. For me, that journey's maybe 3 years old. Maybe 4.
Right.
The whole COVID situation.
Oh, screwed everything. Yeah.
That kind of, for me, I know, obviously it was a detriment to myself, and my quote, normal life, what I was doing. Right.
Sure.
But while, that was all going on, I had this experience in music and, something in the back was like, look, man, the whole world is going through this. Right. And, now because of your own personal situation and the way that it affected me personally, it was like, I might as well just go do this. It's something that it was like a chapter, I wanted to write, like, on my deathbed, so to speak. Right.
Sure.
I look back, I'm like, I want to see in my book this time, is that something that I'm going to be able to tolerate to say, here I am on my deathbed, whenever that may be, and I never took that chance, never stepped out into the storm, so to speak, of it.
Right.
And that was something that I just wasn't prepared to tolerate. So I was, I'm going to go do it. Now it might last a month, yeah, or I may end up blowing up, crazy, but either way, you're talking about backyard parties and things like that. The love of it and what I do, everywhere I go, I tell people, I don't know what you're expecting out of me. People just say they like what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a campfire guy, man. I am not refined. I'm self-taught. I sit around and I beat chords out of this guitar.
Yeah.
And I sing.
That's all right, man. Yeah.
And my family and the folks that are around me, and if they enjoy it, man, that's what I do it for.
Right.
But I'd be just as content sitting in front of a crowd or sitting in a backyard. I actually prefer the backyard. You know what I mean? Because, it that way, at least if somebody, doesn't like what you're playing, they're still your friend.
Exactly. No, man, that's genuine, right? And that's what's missing in a lot of music, and a lot of musicians, out there. Some, it's unfortunate, and some of them do it for the wrong reasons or whatever. But yeah, you're doing it right, man, and that's what will get you far, right? It's about that. It's just about that personal touch, just kind of getting, the audience to feel what you're doing, because that's what real music is about. At least to me, it is, right?
Yeah.
So how does your process go for when you're writing something new or working on something? Where do you really, where do you pull the inspiration from?
Well, I find, like I said, I'm kind of self-taught. As far as everything goes, I have my own experiences with, like, when you're in school and stuff,
Sure.
In your music classes and whatnot, but, no real formal anything. So basically, I have a decent understanding of the circle of fifths, so to speak.
Right.
And I like to try to find nice chord progressions first, And sometimes I'll play these chord progressions, just what feels good.
Okay. Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll play them for weeks, months. Sometimes, man, it's lightning in a bottle, and I got words right away.
Right away. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, but I just basically go through these chord progressions, and if I like what I'm hearing, I kind of record it, throw it in my back pocket, and I'll play it a little while, and before you know it, I'm actually humming a melody or something like the top of it, and then that kind of blends and turns into words, and at first it doesn't make a lot of sense, but after you times you get everything to fit, and then pretty soon you got a song, right?
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, that was fun, on to the next one.
Right. That's cool. I mean, that's kind of how it works for everybody. I mean, there's sometimes it just kind of gets pulled from the ether out there. Who knows, right? It just all of a sudden it comes to you, and sometimes it takes a hot second.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes I wake up with 2 or 3 verses in my head, like just randomly, and everything fits, and then I just got to figure out, all right, which chord progression, where does this need to be, the mood of the song, because you can change the message so much with, just playing your basic standard, open chords, but if you pull you add a 7th or a 9th or something to a chord, you can change the whole mood of that.
Right.
For me, that's the fun part of how, when I'm looking at myself playing and kind of stepping out, kind of into a third person visual of things, what does he look like on stage?
Sure.
And what does that sound like? And then how is that crowd or those folks that are standing there or sitting around the campfire, whatever, how are they receiving that? And is that the artwork, so to speak, that I want to portray?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that the final brush stroke? Is that where it needs to be?
I find it hard to finish songs. There's always something I want to add to it.
Right. Or you accidentally do something midway through it and you're like, I wish I knew how I did that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like those magical mistakes, right?
Right. So that's the fun of live music, man. That's why you got to show up to shows.
Exactly, right? That's right. Yeah, people out there got to show up to shows. It's I feel it, man, because it's like live shows have gone, you want to blame COVID, you want to blame, whatever you want to do, because I know there's a lot of people that still have not, I don't want to say recovered from that trauma, right? Because that was trauma for a lot of people, right? You stopped everything. The whole world stopped, I mean.
Yeah.
Every day.
No doubt about it. And that's part of the thing with me, and I don't want to get hung up on that whole thing, for a very long time. But like what you're saying, it's like, people that they have this image of their life, this belief system, and some are deeper into it than others, right? But then something like that comes along, and you figure out just everything is very fickle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even put the right words, but it's just like, what are you doing with yourself for decades?
Right.
Yeah. And then something like that comes along, and I still see. I mean, you can see it all over the world, everywhere you've been. And it's like people have to deal with the fact that no matter how bad you want it to be, man, it's not going back to 2019.
No, never will.
Regardless. And you can talk about economically, you can talk about, the health of the world, the, mental health thing is I think, I don't think people realize how much everyone's been affected.
It's out of control. It's out of control. You can't get good You can't even get good mental health right now. I mean, the lines are out the door. The waiting lists are forever. Kids suffered,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, and like I said, I don't want to get to it, but I mean, that's enough to make you grit your teeth. Just that part right there.
Yep.
Because you knew it was coming.
Right.
It was just like, this is so insane.
Yeah.
But
man, I know. Oh, dude. Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's you shake your head. I don't even have words for it because, like, I think back and I see, and and like you said, you knew it was coming. You can see how it has affected certain people. Like I said, especially the kids. You can see how it has affected and basically taken our society and split it in half. You had mask wearers, non-mask wearers, vaccine, anti-vax, this, that. Oh, I'll probably get flagged for even saying that word. But you know what I'm saying, right? It's insane. Yeah.
And to me, what's so crazy about it, like I said, I've always, I feel, okay, like I said, this is me just throwing the opinion out there on my own introspection, right? I feel like from as early as I can remember, I've always been able to see the gears turning, quote unquote, right?
Right. See the Matrix.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't quite understand why it's like this, but I do see it. So I just kind of go along with, the what you're supposed to do, quote unquote, right? And there's that tolerance of it, as long as everything's fair, so to speak. And I grew up, my first love outside of music, I was playing football, so to speak. So I use a lot of sports analogy, baseball and football and things like that. And I feel like I was always willing to play the game as long as I was under the impression that the rules of the game were set, and I was going to honor the spirit of the game, so to speak. Right.
Right.
But, COVID just came along and it made it very blatant that not only were the rules and the spirit of the game not being followed anymore, that they probably hadn't been followed for quite some time. The refs were just better liars.
Exactly. It's just being brought to the forefront now. Yep.
And so you have that side of you that's like, angry about it. And then you have that small, hopeful side of you that's like, I hope everybody else is now seeing the game for what it is.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are, but nobody knows what to do about it.
Yeah.
And you have this mental just chasm of separation, like you were saying, between the two sides. And now the longer, I feel like the longer time goes on, it's not just black and white or A and B between the sides. There are now several sections of things that are like, well, I was on this side, now I'm on this side, or
right.
I was on this side and I'm still on this side, but I tend to agree with this, but not that, and it's like, man, we got a whole big ass mess to figure out. And I know that. And right now, all I can do to keep my bearings on anything is just pick up that damn guitar, man.
I know. No. And music, is freeing, man. And it is, and you can get your message out there through that. And that's the thing, because people are afraid to, I think not only do they not know how to go about, attacking this whole thing, but I think a lot of people are afraid to even open their mouth and say anything, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. They leverage so much against you.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And you knew it was coming, man. And when they can't find something to leverage against you, man, they'll make something up.
They'll just make it up. Yep. And that,
like, man, yeah, I don't understand the motivations, man. Like,
no.
What's it all for?
And that's and that's a good segue into our next little story here. So, how we met, we met through a father's rights group, support group. And, we both kind of share a similar story. And, on this show, I started this show, about, wanting to talk about that stuff too. It's mostly harder for me because I'm still going through a lot of things and there's things I can't talk about, but there's a lot of people out there going through the same thing I'm going through, the frustrations. And like you said, people's motivations are, can we say dubious or they're just, there's no truth out there anymore. It's
nefarious.
Yeah, I want to say, like, as honestly as I possibly can, it's evil, right? Because, as we said, these kids were affected by, everything that happened during COVID, a lot of stuff going on, COVID was used as a weapon in family courts, things like that, against, especially fathers going through a lot of stuff. So, take us down a little bit. And I know it's so gut wrenching to even talk about these things, because I know when I talk about, my story and the things I go through, I can see the look on people's face like, are you making this up? Because we're not making it up. We're not crazy, right?
Oh yeah, dude, it's insane.
It's insane. So tell a little bit about how, what pain and garbage that you had to endure. And again, like, for people listening, this is, I say this a lot every time I talk about this. We are not playing victim cards, right? Because that's not how we look at this. We as fathers, and some mothers, they get this too. We look at this as, we just want facts. Facts need to be at the top of the list. Don't look at me for, who you think I am, right? As a father or whatever, or how that mother is just look at the facts, right? Look at the truth and make your decision based on that. But that never happens. So anyway, that's why we get our anger, right?
Yeah. And I mean, basically, like my story, like I said, I was married in the military, right? And each one of these points that, they all have sub points. So to speak, but,
sure.
We don't have months.
That's what I tell you. You want to hear my story? You have months, because I can't even get it over in 5-10 minutes. Yeah. Can't do it. So go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to try to make this. So basically, I'm married in the military, right? I'd been in 2.5 years at the time. I did a 4-year enlistment. So me and the wife, we're doing our military thing, and we've got one child. And then by the time I had separated, and she kind of wanted to go back home. Well, she's like 7 months pregnant with my second child, And so I get out of the military and we're headed back home. And we end up settling kind of in her hometown, right? I was pretty like, I don't have to go back to where I'm from. Like, she wants to be around her family and or her family was a little bit closer together geography wise and everything, and so I'm like, yeah, we'll just hang out where you're at, whatever. Right? So I'm making this life, so to speak, on the civilian side of things and adjusting, right?
Sure.
And I went to to get the GI Bill and everything started, so I did that community college thing,
right?
And so I'm banging out like the basic stuff, the associates in science or whatever, right? And I end up just kind of randomly falling into a law enforcement kind of path.
Okay.
It just kind of seemed like it fit, and the way things worked out. So I was like, whatever, I'll give it a shot, right? Well, I ended up getting hired.
Okay.
and, went to the academies, all this stuff, and I really thought in the back of my mind that this was going to be probably something I did for a really long time. I felt like I was really good at the job.
Sure.
I felt fair, with things. Just to be honest, so did everybody else at the time.
Right.
But in that process, we had our third child. And then I bought a house, and things had, you get into the mundane marriage thing, and where you're just life. You're just paying bills.
Yep. Doing life. Yep.
Going to work, just doing life. Right. But generally speaking, you have the house, you got the dog in the backyard, you got the kids, you got the wife,
right.
You got everything supposed to have, so to speak. Right. And I suspected, here's kind of the ugly part. And like, I don't like to, talk bad about anyone individually, but
sure.
You're just sitting here like, man, what in the hell? Right.
Right.
So, I had suspected that there was some, unfaithfulness in the marriage here and there. But it had become, blatantly obvious at this point that was in fact what was going on.
Oh man. Yeah.
Multiple times, throughout the marriage. But, this time I'd finally really had enough of even the game.
Sure.
Right. Of debate, arguing about it, So, but I'm trying to keep my marriage together. I'm trying to keep my family together. I'm trying to keep everything squared away. Right. And tolerate this situation. Right. And, it just got to the point where, I wasn't going to tolerate it. I couldn't swallow more, And, so I go to file divorce, and, one of her family members had gotten wind of it. And, cause again, I'm trying to be the nice guy, right? Trying to have the conversations of, hey, this needs to happen, or we need to go our separate ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm laying my cards on the table basically. Right. And well, they used that against me. So they went, they beat me to the courthouse, so to speak.
Yep.
So everything that I built, that I provided, was taken away overnight, temporary orders, so I got smacked with, you're going to pay your child support, you're going to pay the mortgage. Here's the temporary orders and their custody arrangement and this and that. And here's your weekends to visit and blah, 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 And, I'm like, well, how does that work? Because,
right.
I mean, she can't even, there's no way for her to sustain the life that I had built.
Right.
But they strip it away and then hand it to her. And I'm like, well, that's just going to bury her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in the time, because of the way things were, all she had to do was say, and keep in mind, I have no criminal record,
right?
Even to this, I don't even have a traffic ticket,
right? Right.
And but all she had to do was put forth the idea that she was scared of me.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
And here comes the PFA order.
Yep.
Well, as a certified law enforcement officer, that ended my career.
Yeah. Fuck. Jeez.
So now, not only do I not have my house and everything that I built, I don't have a job.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So I spent the next 8 months roaming around, doing what I could do to exercise my visitation.
Right.
Which I was able to do, and even more so because in her behaviors and what she was doing, she was happy to hand me the responsibility of the kids at every turn. regardless of whether it was my weekend or not,
Okay.
or my holiday or whatever. I was still the one doing everything from either a family member's house or a hotel room, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's how I landed in San Antonio. One of my military buddies had called me and asked me if I wanted to give it a shot, you know?
Yeah.
And so I go down there to San Antonio. Well, by the time that happened, she had lost my house.
Oh, geez.
All that was left was her and the kids.
Right.
You know, I mean, everything else had gone, and we had still never even been in court.
Oh my
You
God.
know, because they, you know, the way that her lawyer was and everything, they were content to basically let it ride, because in the state, you know, I think it was like, if it rides for 2 years, it stands.
Okay.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
Right. They're not going to change anything.
Right.
So that was the strategy, so to speak, because the second we got in court, there were going to be a lot of things that were going to change immediately.
Right.
So the strategy was to stay out of court for 2 years and basically bleed me dry.
Right. Yep.
From a financial standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, you know, and unfortunately, you know, I was able to hold my end together, but by the end of it all, there was nothing to hold it together for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the kids.
Just the kids. Right.
So, you know, she ends up coming down there with the kids, and, you know, we reconciled, so to speak. Even after all of this, I was still willing to try to save my family.
Right.
And say, look, this is the way it's going to be. Right.
Right.
And, so I had my kids back. I had my family back. So, you know, we're going through that. And, you know, I was, you know, trying to rebuild the life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just from the very beginning, let's just start from scratch. Let's do it again. And, you know, she goes back to the same old behaviors. Once everything was comfortable, once everything was built again,
right,
she goes to the behaviors, right? Well, this time I didn't lay my cards on the table.
There you
go. We had ended up with a fourth child in the reconciliation.
Right.
We were together for about 3 years. So I have a fourth child who is a few years younger than the older three because of that scenario. But unfortunately, the timing of that, you know, like I said, I didn't lay my cards on the table this time.
Sure.
And I ended up with all four of them. And at the time, the youngest one was 7 months old.
Oh, wow.
So it was myself, the three older children, and then the little guy that's 7 months old. And my grandfather had gotten sick with stage 4 cancer.
Oh, man.
So I went back home, you know, quote unquote.
Sure.
Took care of him, did the low income thing, did the food stamp thing, you know.
Right.
Raised this kid, you know, the baby, until he was old enough to, you know, be potty trained and go to daycare and all
Sure.
that, right? And, you know, then I tried to start resuming, you know, normalcy, so to speak, you know.
Yeah.
Over those few years. And then, you know, basically you get back on your feet but the whole time, you know, once this mess has started, it never stops.
No, never.
The entire time, you know, I'm dealing with child support enforcement. You know, and to this day, a conservative estimate, I think she's probably close to $30,000 in arrears.
Wow.
You know, now that's not really the point. The sad part about that is I don't even care about the money, so to speak.
Right.
The point is that $30,000, this is how ugly this is. And this is what people don't understand. And when you said they look at you like you're crazy when you're telling the story, what that $30,000 does is protect me, in the way of a buffer between the crap that we have to go through as fathers with our kids and the constant defense of the fact that you have your children, which is strange in a lot of people's eyes.
Right.
Like, oh, you know, how did you end up with the kids? Did the mom die?
Right. Right.
You know, because it's so against the status quo.
Yes, it is.
You know, and so no, you try to explain this to folks, and they're like, oh, well, that's just one terrible, horrible story. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. You know, so yeah, that $30,000 buffer I have between myself and the state agencies, so to speak, that are constantly trying to use any and everything they can to paint you in a bad light. Again, and I don't even know why. I don't even know the motivations for it.
No,
because clearly the other half, you know, just wow. Right.
Yeah. Wow, man.
And, you know, and like I kind of, prior to us, you know, kind of off air or whatever, you know, speaking, like, you know, this situation has bled even up into very recently, you know, and I'm actually still involved in a situation, because after 12 years of raising them by myself, you know, a couple of them had aged out.
Right.
18.
Right. 18. Yeah.
But I still had the younger guys, and, you know, they're like, oh, we want to, you know, I'd moved from the area and I was doing my thing, you know, and they were like, oh, we want to go back home around mom and this and that. And, you know, and I've never been one to stand in the way of any of the relationship.
Sure.
You know, I'm like, you know, if that's what you guys want to do, then, you know, give it a shot. Right.
Right. See
what she says. Okay. And of course, everybody's always got their opinions about how you're raising and what you're doing. Right. But nobody's feeding them.
No.
Nobody's bills. Nobody's taking them to soccer practice and football practice and, you know, the dirty diapers and, you know, they all got opinions. Right. So I'm just like, you know, if you boys, you know, you guys want to go, you want to give it a shot, you know, I'm not going to stand in your way. You're definitely old enough. Right. You know, to make that decision. So, but I said, here's the thing. You guys have never been split up and you're never going to be split up. So if your mother decides that's what, you know, that's the path, so to speak, by all means. But your little brother's going with you too. She's going to have all three of you. Right. You know, and the little guy, like I said, she was 7 months old when you know, this was the last time that he knew her, really. So I'm like, you know, maybe she'll do the right thing, you know? Wow. And from a legal standpoint, you know, the way that everything was with the arrears on the child support and everything else, I was like, you know what? This will actually benefit her as well in that regard, you know, where the burden of that is not there anymore. Right. So I'm just kind of like, go try it out, you know? And, well, she did. And I think it was 2 weeks later, the youngest one was already back with me. So she lasted about 2 weeks with him. Yeah. And, the third child, like I said, the older two, they've aged out. Right. But the third child, he just came back into my custody, because he was actually removed by the state, from her residence. Wow. You know? And, so once again, here I am so many years later, still cleaning up the mess, so to speak. And the entire time I've had to defend my image.
That's insane. Oh.
You know, as to why I've done things the way I've done things.
Right.
Why I don't cooperate in certain aspects of any of this.
Sure.
Just because to me, it's gotten to the point where I don't understand where people think they have the authority anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, because it's so ridiculous. That I'm like, what leg are you even standing on?
Yeah, right. They swoop in and they basically try to take away, the way I explain it to people, they basically take away your rights as a parent and your voice.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people, to me, like I said, let's go a step deeper. It's like, you're asking, you know, you're going to take away the right of a parent. You're going to smear one side against the other, whatever motivations you have to do that, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, the whole in the best interest of the child, well, that is clearly not one of them.
No, it's not.
You know, if you had any objective look at the entire situation. But even in the short term, you know, the just the immediacy of the argument, it's like, what motivations do you have to continue to inquire about any of this?
Yep.
Really? Because in my mind, this was a decision. If you throw the state and all the courts out of it, in my mind, the most recent decision was one of a father telling his children, if you want to go have a relationship with your mother, by all means.
Right.
And if she wants to have a relationship with you and she wants to pick up the responsibility, finally, of being a parent.
Right.
Then by all means.
Yeah, do it. Right. And which all parents should do. I mean, you know, I've said that, you know, even, you know, in my case or anyone else's case, unless there's some real harm or danger to the kids need both parents. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm sitting here like, I have never been of the mind that, you know, the woman doesn't care for her children.
No. Right.
You know,
yep.
It's just, the thing is, it's like, hey, there are certain things as far as being an adult that aren't easy and they're not fun.
Nope.
And you've never even swallowed that pill.
Right.
And so I've swallowed it for you multiple occasions.
Multiple times. You know? Right. Yep.
And so if that's where you want to go, my children are expressing to me the desire to know their mother. Their mother's expressing to me the desire to have a relationship with her children. So how is it that they've now used that scenario again to try to attempt to paint me in some light when I'm like, hey man, the facts of the case, right? The 12 years of established behaviors,
right,
and historical fact do not support your argument,
right,
in the least.
They don't care about that. And
they don't.
Amazing. It's
like,
amazing.
Well, this is what we're talking about today, sir. And it's like, okay, today, let's just do today then.
Right.
Point A, B, and C. Right.
Yep.
And then they still dodge that shit.
No, they do. That's their favorite thing. You know, it's so funny when I went in for mine and I gave all the evidence of, you know, parental alienation and everything like that. I mean, basically I joke around and I tell people it's not a joke, but it is. If this was a murder case, I got a video of the guy shooting the other guy and you can see everything clear as day, but they just turn their head and say, yeah, it's not about that. Well, what do you mean? It's right there in front of you. They don't want to look at it. And even though it wasn't even that long ago, they started as of just to give you a quick idea. Everything for me started, say, like in September. It all happened. Boom! All the text messages, the notes, everything. And by December, I was handing everything over, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of nothing to do with that. Let's not look at that. Let's look at now. Well, now it's only been a couple of months. This is why we're here. You know what I mean? I mean, the car crashed because the guy, turned the wheel this way. You don't even want to look at that, So I get it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, that's totally the thing. And like I said, it makes me question the motivation.
Yeah.
Like I said, the sad part about my specific circumstance, and like I said, you seem like you've at least gotten to the point of having these arguments even, right?
Yeah.
My thing is like, I've got all that stuff. I've got all the dirt, so to speak, and everything else. But the fact of the matter is, the folks, the powers that be, so to speak, I haven't even had the opportunity to present the dirt, so to speak, because it's almost like it's not even necessary.
Right.
And because it's just so blatantly on its face.
Yeah.
That this is the scenario. But if you do, in fact, want to argue about it, by all means, let's start the discussion, right?
Right.
But everybody involved, I think, is well aware of what the discussion is and how it's going to go. So they use the technicalities of things to basically skirt around it.
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
And in the actual last court date that I had with these people, they, but we'd gone through the plan, we'd gone through everything, and how everything was, and everybody was kind of on the same page, right? And the judge, was like, hey, if this is what I choose to do, how long do you need, basically, to make it happen, right?
Right.
And so we go through that timeline, and, as expected, it comes down the pipe that this is how it's going to happen, and this is what I need to do. So I jumped up and I made it happen. And the following week, the other side filed an appeal, which was granted. But the thing was, I already had the kid. You know what I mean? Like, it had already gone through. Uh-huh. So at this point, we're talking about different states now. And I'm like, appeal or no appeal, what authority do you have for anything now? Right? Unless you're going to involve the state, which all the other state's going to do is come over there and they're going to look at the reality of things because they're new, stepping in the door, right?
Yep.
And what they're going to find is exactly what you're arguing against. So I don't even understand the logic, because you're basically going to prove my point for me at this time. You know what I mean? It's like, again, it goes back to 12 years of behavior, of established patterns,
Yeah, that's crazy. 12 years, man.
And who has done it and who has not. Right. So you guys, and now, like I said, I've never in all of this, not from the beginning, from the word go, have I ever felt like I was fighting my ex-wife.
Yeah.
From the word go, I have been fighting the state.
The state. Yeah. I mean, once you get, that's the sad part, man, is once you get the system involved, the state involved, that's 100% true, because like the same in my case, I mean, I am fighting my ex, but the thing is that if the system, if the state, if the powers that be, quote unquote, looked at the evidence, there would be no fight. They would be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is very obvious. Like I said, it's the guy shooting the other guy scenario. It's right there in the video. All they would have had to do is like, hey, mediation, let's figure this out. It would have been done literally in a couple of months, but that doesn't pay their salary, right? A couple of months doesn't get you thousands of dollars, right?
and that's always been my thing. It's like, look, man, I realize as lawyers, judges, state workers, everybody involved, yeah, you all got families to feed, you got your job, and you have to justify your job. I get it, right? But here's where we disagree.
Right.
From an authority standpoint, as a father, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care about your job.
Yeah.
That's your problem.
That's your problem. Exactly right. You got thousands of other cases and thousands of other people. And in the meantime, you're ruining lives.
Exactly. You're destroying
what
I've been doing. And basically, it's gotten to the point where it's so bad. It's like you are now actively sabotaging a situation.
Yep.
For your own ends.
Yep. 100%. Yep.
And it's like, if that is in fact the way that you operate and you go home and sleep at night, by all means.
Yep.
Because, it comes back.
It does.
It comes around.
It does. And it's sad. And, there's no words. And like I said, a lot of people just don't understand. If you haven't been involved in something like this, you'll never get it. And, they really do drive you to the edge of, I won't say insanity, but they drive you to the edge where people look at you and go, that can't be. It can't be, Yeah. And how many times has someone said, have you tried this? Like, I've tried it all. They don't care. Right.
You're like,
right.
Hey, bud, man, you're about 10 years behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like for me, I have always been aware, through whether it be through childhood or adult, right? Whatever. Right.
Sure.
We talked about, the mental health aspect of things, right?
Yeah.
I've always been aware, no different than anybody else on this planet. Okay. That, the human condition, so to speak, at times you struggle with anxiety, you struggle with depression, you struggle with anger, you struggle with, all the stuff that everybody has to chew on, man, on a daily, right?
Right.
And for me, the answer has always been why. Why is it like this? What am I doing, or what can I do from a personal standpoint to be a better version of myself,
right?
Whether that be physical, mental, emotionally, the maturity of it, like where am I going as a man, as a father, and just as a human being in general.
Right. Right.
And so you see all this, right. And, the funny thing is like, at times I will go into a therapist or a counselor and I will sit down and I will tell them this story.
Yep.
And these people who deal with just who knows what, who's walking into their office from one day to the next.
Right.
And, but they look at my story and they're like, they drop their jaw literally, like they're just speechless. They don't have a response.
They don't have a response. Huh? Same here. Yep. Same here. So, it's crazy.
Yeah. Like, you guys are the trusted professionals, so
right.
to speak, right?
Right.
Like, let me put this out here. And I want a professional mind, a professional opinion on am I gathering what I'm gathering?
Yeah.
Is it skewed by perception? Is it skewed by anger? Is it skewed by frustration? Is it skewed, or as a third party, am I being accurate in my assessment scenario?
I've done the same thing, bro. Yes.
And I've asked these people because I've been in emergency rooms several times for panic attacks. Full blown panic attacks.
Yep.
I mean, I was like, man, I'm dying.
Yep.
Man, right now. This is it, brother.
Yep.
Like,
yep. Tightening in the chest, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And so, I'm hooked up to monitors, all this other shit, right? And they end up, I'm in there, and then I go see these mental health professionals, right? And I'm like, what's with this whole generalized panic disorder?
Right.
Generalized anxiety, right?
Right.
And they're like, that in the beginning, they they look at it like, yeah, that's what you got.
Yeah.
Right. But then of course they find out I'm a veteran. So they're like, oh, it's got to be from the military.
Right.
Oh, man. No, I don't know. I mean, it could be, but I'm not feeling that way.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it's your time in law enforcement. Yeah, could be. But again, I don't know if it really is.
Right.
But if you look at the totality of circumstances,
sure,
the amount of stressors,
right,
for the amount of time,
yeah, right.
They're like, as of late, these people are starting to look at me and be like, I don't think you have general panic at all. I don't think you have generalized anxiety at all. I don't think you have a clinical depression issue. I don't think you have a clinical anything issue. I think you've just been dealing with this bullshit for 12 years.
You got a family court issue.
And it's like, so I'm not a loony?
No.
Like, I'm not completely crazy.
Yeah.
And the last one I was in, I asked them point blank. We finished our sessions, right? Scheduled sessions, went through the whole shebang, the whole program.
Yep.
Right. And at the end of it, and this was all voluntary.
Right.
Not court.
Right.
This was my own, me. Let me figure myself.
Right.
And at the end of it, man, I asked this woman, I said, well, if you had to pick, if you had to be super critical, what do I got?
Right.
What's wrong with me? What do you recommend? Super harsh, super critical.
Yeah.
And she's like, nothing.
Yep. Been there. Same thing.
And I'm like, so randomly standing in my kitchen and my heart rate going to 187 beats a minute, just fucking cool then, or what?
Right. Yep.
I mean, that's just.
This is what, and it's funny because it's like, I've been there. I've been there. I said the same thing. I had two separate therapists said the same. Is it me? Just flat out tell me I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Is it me? No, it's not you. This is 100% what you're saying it is. I'm like, okay. But again, nobody cares. No, the system doesn't care, and they push it to the fact where it's just you just have to give up and walk away, or just continue going until you have absolutely nothing left and you're a shell of who you used to be. It's sad.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and this is the thing, like, the one thing I can say about all of this, and I don't know where it's going, and I definitely hesitate to say that it's anywhere near being over. I don't believe that there's an over, so to speak.
Right.
Much like COVID, the bell can't be rung, so to speak. Right. But in all the estimation of everything, it's like, this is who I am. And I've really figured out quite a lot in this awakening, so to speak. And, I think, you said that people don't care. I don't think that people don't care. Generally speaking, I am a cynical person, but I also am on the optimistic side of the human condition, so to speak. I think that with everything going on, that your story and my story is not unique in the general sense of things. Everyone has their story. Everyone has their struggles in life. Now, how bad or good that storm is, so to speak, how easy it is to navigate versus something that you might just drown in a couple times over.
Right.
To me, that's not relevant in the big picture of things. It's the ability to understand and the empathetic compassion of saying that this is everyone's experience, whatever you believe in.
Right.
And so to keep going in your own, if I had to point at humanity and society and say that, the one thing, it'd be like, look, man, understand the guy next to you is on his own path, like they need to understand that. So I don't think that they don't care. I think they're just so busy with everything.
Yeah. With their own. Yeah.
That they literally, some people do a better job of introspection than others.
Yeah.
Some people are completely on the opposite end where they lie to themselves.
Right.
Constantly,
Exactly.
and they do zero introspection, and
Right.
everything is somebody's fault. I think I'm on the extreme end. I think I'm probably in my head way too damn much. But on the, somewhere in the middle, there's that guy that's just living life and generally happy, and while he deals with his own, scenarios, he's still got that in him to help other people around him,
Sure.
And I think just generally, whatever, you need to come back to the middle, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's basically what it all boils down to, is being centered.
Yeah.
In your life.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, do a very poor job of being centered in what they're doing, what their motivations are. And it's nobody's fault, really. It's just, you've got to do the work. And if people don't do the work, then, they're putting their emotional, their spiritual, everything that they are into something external,
Yeah, man, that's deep for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Shit, man. I know we're hitting time, and I even hate to end this here because this is a phenomenal conversation. So we're going to have to do this again, man, for sure. Dude, man. Yeah. I mean, this has been amazing. Like I said, I mean, what, we can talk about, stuff that we've gone through as dads for hours. And like I said, I mean, people just you'll never hit the, you'll never hit the point across in just a few minutes and an hour and a couple hours. It's just, there's so much to it. And like we said over and over again, it's the system has been designed to basically bleed you dry emotionally, mentally, financially, and at the end of the day, I always say the same thing, man. You can keep beating on me, but leave the kids alone, man. They're the ones that are getting affected, and that's a shame, dude. Damn, yeah, man, for sure, man. I gotta have you back on. We gotta have more conversations about this. We definitely have to. But before we go, man, hey, thank you so much for your service, to our country and as law enforcement. I mean, that's especially nowadays, man. That's like one of the toughest things to even be a cop around around this country,
yeah, right.
So yeah,
that was a few years ago, but
still, man, yeah, I appreciate
you
that.
Look at it, you see it coming.
Yeah,
100%. And the way I feel about that, there's people in uniform, people out of uniform. I'm not different. I'm not different than when I wore the military uniform. I'm not different than when I wore the law enforcement uniform.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, it's like, again, it goes back to the Johnny Cash thing, man. It's been a wild thing to see. And if you really knew who Johnny was, but service, man.
Sure.
Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the only thing. And I guess maybe that's why I don't understand the motivation, because I feel like a lot of my life has been about service.
Yeah.
Regardless of the obstacles and the hurdles and the beatings, it's about service, and you get back to what's the motivation, and you see this all over social media and whatnot. It was all the money's the root of all evil, blah blah blah. No, it's the love of money, man.
Right.
Get it right. The quote is the love of money.
Yeah.
The worship of money.
The worship of money. I mean? Yes, I do.
And the thing is, man, if you step away from that for one damn second and you look at the worship of money versus service, you figure out people's motivations.
Yeah. Damn right.
And man. You don't have. So, unfortunately, the ones who haven't figured that out yet, it's a long, hard ride, man. Yeah. I hope you make it.
Definitely. Awesome, man. So, plug, what's your, so people can see your music, what's your, where can they go on? Do you have a page on Facebook for all that? What's the page on Facebook?
Yeah. So, and like I said, it's nothing spectacular, man. It's all homemade videos.
That's all right.
Just me.
People need to see it.
Yeah. It's, JB Music, 82. So Jeremy Burns. So JB Music 82.
Awesome. There'll be a link. I'll put a link to the show too in there at the bottom of the show notes. I'll put a link to that too.
And then, you got the Instagram thing is the, JB Music _82. And, and I hate to say it, man, but all my friends like, man, you really need a TikTok. So finally, man, like 2 weeks ago, man, I finally opened up this TikTok situation. And, like I said, it's ironic, but
yeah, I know. Me too. I got one too. I don't know what the hell I'm doing on there, but I'm putting TikToks up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm like, man, just give me a campfire, dude. Like,
that's it, man. Right. I know. I feel, every time I go to video something for this or that or TikTok, I feel like an idiot, but I mean, people like it. It's all right. I'm not going to down on it if it gets our word out there. Right. So you look at it this way. If all that garbage and all that shit's out there on TikTok, at least we could be a little ray of hope and put some good content out there. What the hell, right?
Yeah, something, brother.
That's it, man. Awesome. All right, man. Well, you hang on. Again, thank you so much for being on the show, brother. We're going to do this again for sure. So hang on tight, everybody else. Peace. Guys, there you have it. Awesome interview with Jeremy Burns. Jeremy, thank you for your service, my friend. All right, man. Guys, thank you so much for always coming in and checking out the show. Please share it, send it out there to your buddies. www.thebeardspeakspodcast.com. Check us out on all the socials. If you got an idea for the show, send me an email at thebeardspeakspodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.